There's a special moment in gaming when you get your hands on a new game, you start it up, and within the opening minutes, you're hit with that feeling of, oh, this is something special. This was the Crownless and Dreamless fight in Wuthering Waves for me. For better or worse, I've been a gacha player for over 10 years, starting way back with Crusader Quest in 2015. So I've picked up and dropped dozens and dozens of gachas at this point. But WuWa has had me in its clutches pretty much since it dropped, and I keep coming back for more. And I can confidently say that a big reason for that is the look and feel of its stylish combat. I'm Pity Forte, and here's why the gameplay in Wuthering Waves has kept me hooked longer than most gachas so far. Great combat can be defined by many things: flashy abilities, slick animation, mechanical depth, and the opening moments of WuWa introduces a balance of all three. However, for combat to feel great, a few concepts have to be taken into account. In game animation, there are several things that developers need to consider to sell a hit. First, you have the startup, the moments before the strike used to build anticipation. Then there's the follow-through, the explosive movement demonstrating the speed of the character. There's the reaction to the hit, and finally, the finish. This can be especially hard for ranged characters because the anticipation, follow-through, and reaction to the hit is a little tougher to capture. Or tougher to capture in an interesting way at least. And that's why Galbrina is one of my favorite characters. She fights using a combination of quick and slow shots, but all of her moves follow a flow that really sells the weight of her attacks. The anticipation becomes her shifting to the pivot point where she rests all her weight, before going into the recoil from her shot, which becomes the follow-through and the reaction at the same time. Then the finishes are bursting with confidence and that femme fatale energy that Galbrina commands. I genuinely love it, and I think she's one of the best animated characters in the game. Failing to take these stages into consideration will result in combat that feels off or weightless. Of course, all these things can vary depending on the weapon type, attack speed, and more. But Kuro has done a great job making sure each resonator looks good in motion and you really get a sense of their character and their movements. And in between attack animations, the characters will perform flares and flourishes, displaying their personalities and just absolutely aura farming. As frustrating as she can be to play, Zani is an aura demon. Like, where does the cheer even come from? Who does she think she is? Then she throws her shield out just to hit this stretch mid-attack? Like, alright, we see you. Once you fully appreciated the attention to animation, you can start to get into the nitty-gritty of the nuances of combat in Wuthering Waves. Gameplay in WuWa feels fairly responsive, and a big reason for this is because most moves can be cancelled with a dodge or special move, allowing the players to respond to action immediately, provided you're in a position to do so, i.e. not locked into one of the few moves you can't cancel or caught midair without a air dodge. Diving deeper, as you start to experiment with canceling, you'll find moments to animation cancel, continuing your assault where you normally would have been stuck in an animation, or instead of canceling, you might find some windows for quick swapping, which is when you take advantage of a character's long attack animations and swap in another character to attack simultaneously. Unfortunately, the latest resonators don't really give enough time to do much quick swapping, but I can confidently say that my old quick swap team is the reason I'm a dedicated WuWa fan. Given your ability to cancel out of animations with dodges and attacks, you'll also have an easier time taking advantage of the dodge and parry system. For dodging, you're given a pretty generous window, and if you successfully pull it off, you're rewarded with a short time slow and a dodge counter. For parries, these are triggered when you time your attack with golden circles that appear in your enemies, and it feels so satisfying every time you hit. You get a brief slowdown, a sound place that confirms you nailed it, and you'll usually be rewarded with the enemy bouncing off of you and staying still for a moment. It also takes a chunk out of this break bar, which when empty causes the enemy to stop all movement for an even longer period. Moving on from the mechanics and animation, variety is the spice of life, and Kuro does not disappoint in this area either. Each character has a unique forte that requires you to build resources before you ultimately cash out. Some are pretty straightforward, like Calcharo, where you just land skills to fill his forte bar and you spend it by launching heavy attacks. Or after ulting, you just land his basics. Others require a little more planning, like Ameth, where you keep track of 2 resource bars that you fill up before you can use her second ult. But my favorite is WuWa's. The little minigame you play for her instantly won me over, and I'm waiting for a DPS with the same kind of interactive forte bar. All of these elements come together in one big spectacle, the boss fights. It's no secret that WuWa has some of the most jaw-dropping boss sequences in its story quest, but they aren't particularly hard. Don't let that fool you though. This game has endgame modes, and sometimes when I'm fighting bosses in these modes, I get this feeling in the pit of my stomach that's usually reserved for Souls-likes. While the boss is zipping around and launching its own special moves, and you're weaving in and out of combos, adjusting on the fly to avoid one-shots, and looking for windows to get your big damage in, it really captures the vibe of an anime-flavored power fantasy while still keeping you on your toes. It's honestly frustrating and adrenaline pumping all at the same time, and it's rare that a gacha game elicits that kind of response from me. Altogether, these are the things that I believe makes the gameplay in Wuthering Waves stand out amongst the sea of gachas. The gameplay comes wrapped in a solid package that I'd recommend to anyone who hasn't given Wuthering Waves a shot. For more content like this, don't forget to subscribe. And if there's any particular reason you've stuck with WuWa, let's talk about it below. But until then, this has been PD Forte, and I'm out.